Now let's say this is my finished composition for my number 3 middle ground. It says middle ground 2 because there's middle ground 1 and middle ground 2. First I should say the guides that I've put in here, if for any reason they're not visible, where you can show and hide guides is under View Show. And you can come over here and you can see the hotkey is Command semicolon. So I can hide the guides or go to Show and view the guides. Now, if I want to begin to preview my layers together, I would still like you to keep this, this original file that has all your multiple layers, so that if you need to come back and edit the position of things, that you'll be able to do that. You may not have 4 different layers, you may have 1 layer, you may have 2 layers, but I still like you to keep this layered file. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now I'm going to open up the template that I've given you guys called Animated Environment All Layers Template. And this is going to be in this most recent email, not in the first email I sent you. Double click that. Now here are my layers just with colors here. So I'm going to come down here to middle ground 2 and come over here. And what I want to do is just temporarily merge these layers. So I click on the top layer, I hold down Shift, and I click on the bottom layer, not including the background. I'm going to Control click or go to the drop down and go to Merge Layers. So now this layer is 1. I'm going to go to Select All. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to come over to the template, and with middle ground 2 selected, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to do a paste special paste in place. So it comes into its appropriate guide here. Then I'm going to go, before I forget, I'm going to go back to that layered file, and I'm going to go to the history palette, and I want to go back to before I merged the layers. So I'm going to go back before that so that now I can see all of my layers. If you didn't want to use the history palette, you can also go backwards by doing step backwards, which is Option Command Z. You've probably noticed that in Photoshop, Command Z only takes you back 1 step. So if I do Option Command Z more than once, then I can go back in time and I can keep those layers. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I come back here. And what we can do is slowly replace the template layers, which is really just showing us that middle ground comes to in between these 2 guidelines. And it's going to be approximately that gray color. We can talk about the gray colors later. First, we want to get the compositions done. If you want to temporarily get the gray close to what it's supposed to be, I can select this layer here. Now I can immediately see that I got some white spaces, so these weren't transparent for some reason, so I'm just going to select those whites and delete them. Okay, so now what I should have is a black with a transparent background. And again, if you had any white, you can select that and delete it. And what I can do is go to Image, Adjustments, Levels, and I can grab onto the output levels, and I can change the gray of this. Now, for some reason, I have a little bit of a white outline, so I'm going to pull in the other side. So basically what I'm looking for is this to kind of disappear into the gray template. And I'll go ahead and say OK. So when I turn off that middle ground template, now what I have is my design in a matching middle gray. And then we'll repeat this process for all of the other layers and slowly bring them in here and replace, or you can just put them above. So I can put my middle ground just right above middle ground. I can put my foreground 1 just right above foreground 1, and so on until you have all 6 layers. And then just be careful to remember that when you see all 6 layers lined up, that does not necessarily mean that that is not a static composition, and if something appears to be covering something else, remember that it's only going to be doing that for a small portion of the animation.